Yeah, well, I think that there's definitely, a sense of something being in the air and things happening, and I've just stepped out of I think procedurally unique session, and I can't remember many COPs where they've had sort of this high-level segment chaired by the current COP president and the next COP president with multi-stakeholder dialogue, and where everybody is sort of like, it's like a revival sort of summer camp. Yes, we can do it. Yes, we will do it. This is what we can do. And you've got, this sort of unity of voice now from progressive business investors, civil society, indigenous leaders, and government. And so there's definitely something going on. And in the sessions that I've been participating in yesterday on carbon pricing, and on investor interest and what's going on with business and the economic drivers, there's this real sense of things that we talked about a year ago, 2 years ago, sort of as being a long way off, are now being talked about as inevitable, or are being talked about as sort of like the next clear steps that everybody agrees on. So, putting a price on carbon is now something that's widely accepted as being something we should be doing like right now, not sort of theorizing and working through. And similarly, I think the language has shifted. I mean, the extent to which people are talking about how to get to zero net emissions, the extent to which people are talking about decarbonising economies, that's a shift. And I think that energy is really quite exciting.
How significant is it, this whole concept of zero net emissions by 2050, or at some point between 2050 and 2100? Because it has, although it's been in the text for a couple of months now, it has really raised up the agenda here in Lima, and it does seem to have caused a lot of sort of controversy. Is it realistic? Do you sense?
Well, the science is pretty clear. Right? The IPCC was pretty clear. If we want to keep at 2, which is what we've all agreed we want to keep at, and 2 is difficult for a lot of people. It's going to mean a lot of damage. A lot of volatility, but that's where we've agreed to stop. Then we've got to be at zero net before 2100. So setting aside the discussion about what before 2100 means, the fact that that's now the basis for planning, right? So people are thinking about, okay, well, what does that mean? So, you see all kinds of developing countries who have real needs that have to be met as they continue to develop. The question then is, how do you bring the peak forward? And then how do you bring the clean development forward, and how do you finance that? And for us as a development bank, what it means is that, we have a mission of poverty, ending poverty, building prosperity. We have to do that in a sustainable way. But what it means now is that we have to be able to help our clients think through how to do that while decarbonising. That wasn't our frame of reference in Copenhagen. And so I do think it does, having that long-term horizon defined does help you think through what the journey is going to entail.
And what about pricing carbon? There was this big announcement in New York. Was it 70 countries and over 1,000? 73 countries and 1,000 businesses. Is that something that you expect? Because you guys were really the leaders behind that. Are you expecting that list to expand?
Well, so we did this with phenomenal work from the We Mean Business Coalition and from the Prince of Wales Business Leaders Group and many, WBCSD and others. So it was actually a really great alliance, and that alliance is well and truly in place today. And what's been really exciting since the summit is all kinds of business leaders wanting to talk about, okay, how can we help? And all kinds of countries saying, okay, look, we're thinking through our options here. We've got to make explicit a price on carbon within the economy. We have different tax options. We have different market-based mechanism options. We have different regulations and policies that we can use. How do we do this? So what we've, after listening to a lot of people talking to us about how they want to take the coalition forward, what we're going to do is launch in January a series of work on scenarios. So what happens if you're a business leader, or even if you're a government leader, what happens when all the different jurisdictions around you have got different effective prices on carbon? So here in the Pacific Rim, Chile's going to introduce a tax, California's got an auction system, Korea will have a trading system on the 1st of January 2015, China will come in with a national carbon market according to its plans in 2016. What happens for business when you've got different prices on carbon in different jurisdictions? We'll then publish those in the spring. And I think as you put more data and information out there about how much is really going on and how many prices exist, including greater transparency from CDP and others around what the private sector is doing internally, then I think you help with that inevitability and you help countries think through what kind of innovations they need as they design carbon pricing, whether it's by tax or by market.
Final question. There seems to be a real theme coming out, particularly from the French presidency and also from business leaders like yourself and Paul Polman, that in a sense this is an important forum, but what's happening outside will perhaps determine how successful Paris is and beyond. I mean, obviously it's still going to be important, these negotiations, but do you really sense the momentum outside these sometimes slightly cynical halls is such that it alone can achieve a transformation?
Well, I think that the COPs and the whole climate caravan needs to find a way to speak very clearly and send very clear signals to economic actors, local, national, international, because it's going to be in the way in which we redirect the economy that we will be able to create the jobs, meet basic needs, protect the poor, and get to zero net emissions. And so the audience for these meetings is no longer ourselves or the environmental cognoscenti or sustainable development planners. I mean, the audience for this, are the finance and economic officials and CEOs of businesses and investment managers and chief investment officers all around the world. And I think there's energy. We're always going to need a COP. We're always going to need a framework convention. But we have to get better at being able to communicate intent and then having really strong ambition, which will send a very clear signal to all these economic actors that this is now shaping what your opportunities for success are in the future.